Hello, everyone, and welcome to the greatest live Pokemon TCG show on Earth, The Top Cut. I am Josue Crim's Rohano, and with me are Kyle Pukasukovic, Drew Holton, and Michael. I swear I'm not really that lucky, Pram. So, yeah, we don't have Ben Potter here tonight. Unfortunately, he couldn't make it. But the rest of us are here, and 3 out of the 4 of us happen to make it to regionals. So that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. We're going to be getting you guys a little bit of our stories, and then finally we're going to get to your guys' viewer questions. I know Kyle kept wanting to say hi or something like that, so the stage is yours, my friend.
No, your camera's back. There you go.
Yeah,
hey.
I was surprised. That's why I go,
I made it.
It's here.
All right. The truth is, I probably had it off, and I was just putting my makeup on, making sure I was looking pretty good. But as you guys can see, I am, so we're good. Kyle, we'll start with you. I know you didn't have the best of a regional tournament, but at least you did get to cast on day 2. Can you please give us a little bit of a recap on exactly how this weekend went down for you?
Sounds like you told the story pretty well. Why don't you just keep doing it?
Look, I mean, I could, but I'd rather hear it from your voice.
All right, so I drove there Friday night, went to Fort Wayne, Indiana. Was going to get some testing in the night before. No idea what I was going to play. Didn't feel like it was going to be that big of a deal, though. But I got to the hotel lobby, and then I found out that's pretty much where every single Pokemon player was staying at our hotel. And I sat there just playing a Rayquaza electric deck for like 4 hours straight, just playing against people that walked up, and I kept playing and playing. Probably didn't leave the lobby until 4 in the morning. Probably not my brightest idea, but that's what I did. I sat there with a 4 shiny Rayquaza deck using Shred all night until I would either win or lose. Didn't really have any other attacks to work with besides Shred, but it worked out pretty well. I was deciding what Darkrai deck to use. I didn't really think I would end up using the Rayquaza deck, but I ended up going with Darkrai Hydreigon because I felt like it was the strongest deck overall if it could set up. And if you got a best 2 out of 3 match, I figure you're going to set up a couple times. And it didn't exactly go the way I wanted it to. The one deck I was afraid of going into the event was the Darkrai Garbodor deck that Colin Mall had posted on his blog. So I added a Tool Scrapper into my deck at the last second, and then I faced 3 of them in the Swiss rounds. So that was just the kind of day I had, facing all my bad matchups, getting bad hands, and I ended up going 5-4. But, it happens. You gotta get unlucky at some point.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to, kind of rub it in a little bit, rub salt.
No, you don't. No, you don't.
No, I really do. The smile's actually kind of a fake one, and what I'm about to say actually kind of breaks my heart. But you haven't had really the best run of luck in recent months. Do you? Again, I have to keep asking you this. Do you attribute that to anything in particular, or do you just feel like, hey, man, sometimes you just don't get the right side of the coin in your favor?
I mean, I wouldn't say I've had that bad of a run. I did win regionals back in the spring last year. So
hey, man, I said a couple of months. All right, that's you're kind of stretching the couple of months out a little.
Yeah, I mean, ever since then, though, it has been pretty downhill. I didn't do too well at Nationals or Worlds. The Worlds is kind of a given at this point. But, yeah, Nationals didn't go too well for me. I did fairly well at Battle Roads. I made 3 out of 4 at top forward. I won one of them. So I didn't have too much trouble through Battle Roads. But, yeah, Regionals just wasn't in it for me. I think ever since Darkrai, I've just been struggling for whatever reason. I don't know if it's the formats just not work with me, or I don't understand what the cards do, or what the deal is. But, yeah, just haven't had much success.
Yeah, at first you shied away from Darkrai, but lately you've actually been, kind of honing your skills with it and playing that card instead. And unfortunately, the results haven't shown it. But I mean, do you still feel like you're the same old Pooka, just not as lucky?
Yeah, I mean, I had a good run of luck. I mean, I can't deny that. To win as many tournaments as I have in the past few years, you have to get really lucky at some point. And I made top 4 at Nationals like 3 years in a row, which is stupid lucky. So I'm not surprised that I didn't do well at regionals. At some point, you're just going to have a bad run, and I just think that's what it is right now.
I just kind of thought about it, and it almost sounds like I was trying to call you lucky, which I'm really not. I'm saying, I guess what I was trying to say was,
The truth comes out.
no, what I was trying to say was, what? I mean, do you feel like you're getting unlucky right now? Not. Do you feel like you're not getting lucky? If that makes any sense. But anyways, nice to see that you still enjoyed your weekend, and the casting part. I'm sure it was a great, great as always for you. And honestly, being one of the spectators, one of the people viewing it from home, I really enjoyed it, and we had some great games.
I mean, I'll let Drew explain it more because he did really most of the work. But I had fun day 2 doing the casting with Drew. We got a lot of great games. If you guys haven't watched those yet, I would definitely recommend all the Top Cut matches. They were excellent. And yeah, it was just great that we had the opportunity to do that. But like I said, I'll let Drew get into that part.
Yeah, absolutely. However, we're going to skip on Drew, and we're going to go to Michael Pram. Pram, how was your weekend?
Tournament-wise, quite terrible. Basically, I went with... I was kind of flip-flopping between Electric and Darkrai Hydreigon. I kind of did a mistake, and I went, what would Kyle do? And I picked Darkrai Hydreigon. That was, and I saddled up for my worst tournament ride, and
I didn't even know what Kyle would do, so I don't know how you figured that out.
Well, I figured you wouldn't run Electric, so I picked the Darkrai deck. Pretty simple.
Alright.
So, yeah, my first round I got I went 1-3 drop, by the way. So my first round I went second. I played one Dragon Dino, and that didn't end up working so well because I went second, and I started with the one Dragon Dino, and my opponent started with Shiny Rayquaza. So I was starting the day before drawing a card at 0-1. And then round 2, I went up against another Electric deck, but this time I got set up pretty well, but I couldn't draw energy. So I was kept on 2 energy for a while. He kept dropping EXs down, so I kind of stayed in the game, but I eventually lost. And then I finally won my third round against someone who didn't really know how to play. That was refreshing. And kind of reminded me of PTCGO. And then round 4, every time I went up against another Electric deck. So round 3 I also played against an Electric deck. So I played against 4 Electric decks in a row. And every time I would end, I'd be like, don't draw Max Potion, don't draw Max Potion, I'm ending you to 2, don't draw Max Potion. Max Potion came slamming down. So it was just like a couple ends like that, and then I was out of the tournament.
Yeah, a 1-3 start is obviously not something to really look forward to, and not something that really comes around very often. I believe you've mentioned that it was your first negative record in quite some time.
Yeah.
These things happen, man. I'm telling you. Join Team Washed Up, and it'll happen a little bit more often.
Well, generally I don't go under 50% in like ever, but then like 50% is like a bad tournament for me. So this is one of the first. Maybe if I played it out all the way, I could have got broken even, but I figured I might as well cut my losses and start recording some stuff.
Yeah, I'm surprised. That's cheating system. You can't do that. You can't. Okay, continue, Kyle.
Sorry, I'm surprised you didn't play it out. Just because 6-3 you can still get championship points.
I didn't realize that until after like 2 rounds later. I was just like, oh, that's right, I forgot about that. you get into a pretty bad place when you're 1-3.
I understand. I got there too, but
you just start feeling sad for yourself, and you just go, I
was at the point where I was like, I knew I was out of the tournament, but I knew I could still get championship points. So
I also started out with 100, so it's
I suffered one more heartbreaking defeat before my tournament was over.
Yeah, I mean, like I'm also at 100 points right now, so like the 10 points I would have gotten if I did win out wouldn't have been that big of a deal for me, because like basically what's gonna make or break my run is cities.
Yeah.
So.
Which is coming up in a couple of weeks. Go figure. About a month, right? Something like that.
Like right after Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
So, anyways, you mentioned that you started recording matches. Is that what you ended up doing for the rest of the weekend?
Yeah, I recorded some matches, and like I did a kind of funny interview with Ben just during downtime. We were just kind of sitting around, and I was just like, I'll just hit record and see what happens. And it ended up being kind of fun. So, yeah, the matches we recorded are being progressively commentated and put up as we do them. So, yeah.
Yeah, Ben being one of the players, obviously. Well, one of the three people who actually played this weekend for the Top Cut, actually was the one who did the best out of the group. And it's unfortunate that he's not here to tell his side of the tale. But Pram, you were there. Is there any information that you can give us from his result?
We're living in a bizarro world, Ben. Ben outdid all of us.
It happens sometimes. It's within variance. But he was playing electric Rayquaza with one Stunfisk, and the Stunfisk he used with the Thundershock one, because he was like, I don't really want to play Prism Energy. They just get enhanced hammered away. He just wants to play Lightnings and Fires, and this is his way. And because he's running Victini already, this is his way of knocking out Darkrai's that don't play Switch anyway. So he just he catches up a Darkrai, if a Darkrai's already active. You Thundershock it, you do 100, and then you have a 75% chance of just paralyzing it and knocking it out next turn with something else.
Yeah, Victini was one of the innovations of the weekend, and as the videos have told us, and I'm sure will tell us after you finish uploading your videos, they kind of defined what the weekend was all about, and we'll get a little bit more into that. But first, we have one more Top Cut member to interview, and that was the man of the hour, the man who decided to sit out his regionals championships. And Drew, can you please explain to us why you decided to do that?
Yeah, I wasn't really looking to play going into this season that much. Probably at cities, battle roads, stuff like that. But if I decided, if the opportunity presented itself to do some more coverage, really try to work that out for us so we do a better job in the future, I would try to do that. So, specifically because I can't really go to the spring events due to my work schedule, I have to work on those weekends. So I can't qualify for Worlds off the ring anyways. I might as well try to progress what we're trying to do for the game. So I did actually playtest a bit Friday night. Unfortunately, Excadrill is a horrible deck, and it didn't really work out too well. I was planning on playing if the internet was bad on Saturday, but we showed up, the internet was fantastic. I was ready to move into the convention center. It was so good. It was outstanding internet. So I got set up, and that's what I did all day. I'm not the best commentator in the world. Obviously, I think we'd rather have Pram and Kyle doing it while I'm doing site stuff, but it's better than no one. And I really got a feel of what we could do in the future and how many people it would take in order to do that. So it was a good time.
You don't give yourself enough credit.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were actually pretty entertaining, and you had some decent insight coming into this, especially for somebody who hasn't really played this season, not very much anyways. I mean, if you were going to play Excadrill, then you can really explain how much you have actually played.
Excadrill hooligans.
Oh, man. I guess, it worked out excellently. The stream went fine. You actually provided a lot of insight for players and for viewers, actually, more than anything. And it was just more entertaining this way. It's infinitely better to have somebody kind of narrating what's going on instead of just seeing it and playing music in the background or something. So, major props to you. Thank you very much for doing that. And hopefully that just progresses what the Top Cut can do going forward, as far as what we can prove that we can do going forward, and hopefully we can keep doing this. But yeah,
Drew,
really,
as long as they played cards that you understood that what they did, you were good. But
the first 3 rounds, there was a card. What is this?
once the Gardevoirs, the Zebstrikas, and the Garchomps hit the board, your brain was fried. You had no idea what those were.
To be fair, you probably wouldn't have been the only one that would have been struggling there.
I think out of the 5 of us, I think Kyle would have been the only one who's like, "Yep, I know what's going on." I would have been like, Well, I know what that Pokemon is, but I have no idea what it does.
Yeah, there was like Mondak first round played Zoroark, but he played both Zoroarks, and I didn't know which one it was based off the picture. So I was like, he's got a Zoroark out.
But yeah, I mean, either way, it still went fantastically. Anyways, it still went great, and I'm very proud of you, and I'm very happy for the results that we got. Now, that was it for our regionals weekend. Like I mentioned, I wasn't going to go to this regionals, a little far away from me, but I'm still proud of everything the top could achieved. Top 8 is berth is really not all that not something to really scoff at. It's pretty good. And regional championships have gotten harder and harder. The fact that they're now split up into 3 tournaments is just, I mean, look at Indiana regionals, for example. I mean, that is like star-studded. If you manage to navigate that field without playing against, a perennial Worlds competitor, then, I mean, you're just either down in the dumps playing, against the 1-3s like Pram, or
you're playing against Kyle.
like Pram or Kyle, or you're actually just incredibly lucky because all the 6-1s or actually it was a 9-rounder, right? Yeah, all the 7 and 8, 7-1s, 8-1s, whatever. When you were climbing up the ladder, there was Ross, there was Jason at X and 1, there was Jay Horning who also made the cut, and so forth. I mean, it was really stacked. Tom didn't make the cut though.
No. John Roberts second was there.
Dustin Zimmerman.
Yeah, tons and tons of people.
Yeah.
The last round of Swiss, actually, I was upset we didn't get to record it, but it was Jay Hornung and John Roberts second. They were both 6-2, and they faced each other in the last round. It came down to this epic last game. Came down to a crushing hammer flip, and Jay hit the heads.
Wow. Yeah, I wish we would have been able to record that. That would have been excellent to watch. Luckily for both of them, they both made the cut. And I believe they were both eliminated shortly thereafter. But, hey.
They both made it to day 2. But, yeah.
Oh, did they do? Okay, great. And obviously you have Pennsylvania regionals or Philadelphia regionals, which was also really star-studded. And, I mean, honestly, anywhere you look, you're looking at, like, the greatest tournaments, great players, and it was just an excellent weekend all around for Pokemon. We're gonna cut a little bit into what really progressed throughout this weekend, like I mentioned, Victini being a big one, and so forth. And then we're gonna go into your guys' viewer questions. So if you guys don't mind, please go ahead and ask us on our Facebook page. Kyle, can you please link to them while we begin discussion? All right. So we'll start with Victini. That was probably the biggest innovation of the weekend. Granted, it had been going on around for about a week or so, but there hadn't really been any tournaments to prove it. So Victini comes around, and lo and behold, it not only wins the regionals, I believe, in Texas, but it also makes a big splash everywhere else. I know Ben Potter played it in his deck, who also made top 8. I do know that in Indiana, I saw it all the way up until, is it the finals or the semifinals?
It won.
Ross won, man.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, duh. Ross won. Go figure. So there we go. Ross wins in Indiana. I believe Victini also won in Texas. I'm not really sure about California, but you also have it top 8ing in Philadelphia. I mean, the card was huge. How did it affect the Dark-Right matchup, and did it affect it enough in order for it to really be considered as a staple in this metagame? What do you guys think? Kyle?
Well, yeah, just from the matches that Drew and I covered, you could see that these matches were not only affected by the Victini, the reflips for the paralysis, but they actually hinged on them. The games that Ross would actually hit the paralysis flips, he would win pretty easily. And then if he ever hit a game where he got a double tails, he would actually end up losing most of the time. That happened in the finals against Henry Pryor. He ended up flipping double tails twice in the second game, and he got steamrolled. So it was really a fragile thing. Like, if people had been playing Switch, that whole strategy just gets destroyed, and that deck doesn't even really work because you're sacrificing Dynamos every time. But it just played out the fact that nobody played Switch, and hey, it worked out.
Yeah. Now, I don't want to spoil anything for people, but there is going to be a video coming up that actually shows the Victini deck, or the electric deck featuring Victini, running up against Switch, and it definitely affected how the matchup played out, and so forth. And you guys will get to see it hopefully tonight, if not by tomorrow. But it absolutely affected that matchup, and once the Switch was played, the card was no longer really very effective, which means that either the metagame's going to shift towards people playing Switch to nullify the Victini, or Victini's going to run rampant for a while.
Well, it depends on like the next set too, because you have Keldeo coming out, and Keldeo kind of just laughs at paralysis. So, you know, when you have an inherent switch in Keldeo on every Keldeo, and you can do it as many times, you can do it once per Keldeo, and then you just kind of go, yeah, that strategy doesn't work anymore. So it's kind of
Landorus kind of laughs at Dynamo too.
Yeah, so I think this, I think Electric, this build of Electric was a one and done kind of deal. It won't really see much more play, at least a specific build.
Yeah, you might be right. You're right about the Keldeo definitely affecting how much Victini sees play. It actually depends on how much Keldeo sees play as well. If these two decks were to end up being, still dominant, which I find it hard to believe once Landers comes out, then you might still see that happening. But I guess we'll get more into the Landorus and Keldeos and all that good stuff.
You know what Landorus is weak to? Water.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what type Keldeo is? Water.
That's true. But you know what? I guess we can theorize for a little bit. My favorite thing to do. But the truth is that we really won't know until the cards come out and see exactly how effective the Keldeo deck is going to be. High hopes for it, but we'll see. I'm a big fan of Squirtle. Hopefully it comes out. Hopefully it starts doing good damage. Drew, any thoughts on the Victini over the weekend?
Yeah, I think it was a one tournament wonder, so I kind of agree with Pram there. But it was a huge thing for this one tournament. I mean, in my testing, the Darkrai decks just eventually ran over the Eels decks. So as you can see at our regionals results, Eel decks actually won 4 of the 5 regionals. So I'm not sure how many of them actually played Victini. It looks like at least 2 did, but definitely had a huge impact on the results for this one tournament.
Yeah, I think my best moment on Sunday was when I was watching the Indiana stream, and I hear Kyle go, "Yep, Pram told me about this card, and here it is." And I was just like, "Yes!"
I think Drew chimed in. He's like, "Yep, that looks like a Pram card to me."
Yeah, I mean the card definitely came out, popped up, and go figure, it did work. So Drew, you saw it do damage. Obviously, it won 4 out of the 5 regionals. Were you surprised at all by its effectiveness? Were you surprised at all by the fact that that Electric actually came out on top by such a wide margin?
I was kind of surprised because, I mean, you saw the Vanillix decks, and they had even greater chance of paralyze, and they were still going down. So I felt like Darkrai was such a huge favorite with the Eels deck that I don't know, they just ran good, man.
It's like different.
I couldn't see it being that effective, but it was.
It's like different though because Eel only has to like do it for a couple turns, and then it can go. All right, I'm perfectly set up now. Let's go Rayquaza, right? And then Rayquaza's like, I'm not getting one-shotted, except for a couple guys. So you just ran into that situation a lot.
I still felt like it was a fragile matchup. Like even like we watched Ross play a lot. And even the games where he would spend his first, 3-4 turns paralyzing his opponent, he would finally, bring up the Rayquaza EX, Dragon Burst, knock out a Darkrai. It would still be a struggle after that. Even after everything went his way. He played against Matt Elvis, who, by the way, didn't have 10 cards of his deck. It got it all replaced with basic energy. He plays against Matt Elvis in the top 8. He paralyzes Matt's Sableye for, the first 4 turns. I think he catches a Darkrai, knocks it out. And then Matt just catches his Electric, knocks it out, and then maybe ends him. And then if Ross doesn't have, the Switch, Tool Scrapper, and all the cards to get a Dragon Burst knockout, another Electric gets knocked out. And then all of a sudden you run out of energy acceleration. You maybe get one more knockout with the Rayquaza, and then you just can't knock out their third Darkrai. So even when you buy all that time, I still felt like it was a tough matchup.
I think the only reason that was even a game though was because of Victini. I watched that game and Ross was drawing dead. His hand was so bad, and that Victini gave him enough time to finally set up correctly, and then go, all right, at least we're playing even now. I know you have like a ton of Darkrai set up because that's all you've been doing, attaching energies on Darkrai, but at least I have my setup now too, and I can one-shot your guys.
Yeah, it definitely has a big advantage against a Darkrai deck that plays 20 energy and 3 Rare Candy. And
well, I mean, like to be fair, I wonder how many times he just goes, "Man, this Juniper is going to be tough." To, "Oh, easy."
That's true. That's a good point.
I just meant more of, even with the Victini, like if he flips double tails at some point, geez, like that matchup is still a blowout. I think. Just losing a Dynamo, Darkrai getting a free hit. So it was still a fragile matchup. Like 1 out of 4 times, you're still going to flip the double tails. And I do feel like the electric deck still had to get kind of lucky to win that matchup, which just kind of speaks to how badly Darkrai beats it in the first place.
Not really. I mean, like, you only have to flip so many. You only have to do it so many times. It's not like you're like, I get it. Like, that's why Vanillix is bad, because that's your only attack. Like, but you only have to do it for like. Sometimes you don't even do it. Some games, sometimes it's like you only really do it when you're in a really bad spot.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I just saw Ross do it every single game.
He must have been in a really bad spot a lot.
That was just his go-to strategy.
Yeah,
and
that was his strategy.
The games he missed it, he got destroyed.
Yeah, I mean, he was going to lose those games anyways, if it even didn't have Victini. So, like, that's what it does. It opens the door to like let you win games you shouldn't have won.
I think you guys are focusing on the same points. You guys are focusing on the fact that Victini is helpful. I don't think Kyle's arguing that at all. I think he's arguing that Victini is absolutely helpful. But he's also arguing that, even though it absolutely affected the matchup, it still didn't matter. Well, not that it didn't matter, but that it didn't affect the matchup enough because once the card fails, all of a sudden you're sitting there going like, well, this is a really bad matchup for me. Because now all of a sudden my electrics start going down and I still haven't been able to get any knockouts off of Rayquaza. Because I've been busy, hopefully paralyzing. So anyways, the matchup is a little flaky, but the truth is that it's no longer really relevant, like you guys have mentioned. We are going to get a new format. But it's interesting to see how this weekend played out and see how people actually kind of got this format. And I mean, it was actually really, really fun to watch and really cool to watch how people actually understood the format enough and to the point where, hey, my little nephew's here. Understood the format enough and to the point where they gave themselves the best possible opportunity to be able to figure this out. Anyways, I will be right back. Kyle, take over for a second.
All right, looks like I'm taking over for a second here. I don't know. One of the things I just wanted to mention was just how our regional went in general. There were over 300 players, which is a ridiculous amount. It felt like a mini nationals pretty much. Crim went over all the players that were there. Just some of the interesting stories and things that I noticed. Obviously, number one was Matt Albus making it to the top 8 without his Hydreigon line. That was a pretty ridiculous story. And he still gave Ross 2 really close games, where I actually feel like Ross got kind of lucky to win both of those games. But nevertheless, he lost. The other thing was just the success of really young players is just kind of a shock to me at these events. We had Henry Pryor. He's 15 years old. He just aged up. He took second. I know California's regional, the winner was 15 years old. So we're seeing a lot of young players just age up, or even just new players who just started playing not that long ago have huge success at these tournaments. So I don't know what the reason for that is, but it's interesting to see.
Yeah, we had that at Philly too, where in top 4 it was Gino versus Jimmy Pendarvis. So he just aged up too. So it's it was interesting to see that, like, definitely.
Yeah. I think that has something to do with the strategy level in these formats. It's a lot more even footing, I feel. There's not as big advantage being a huge veteran, seeing a lot of different plays develop, like you would see with the SP decks. Like, you would have to know your deck inside out for those types of matchups. But now it's not too big of a deal. Everyone's running the same Darkrai list, It's whoever runs hottest at the end of the day.
Yeah, by the way, I'm back. Kyle actually made a good point to me a few days ago, and he mentioned that there's and I don't want to say that there's a lack of skill, because that's not true, but the attacks are so strong in this game that really you have just like it's kind of like an equalizer where now all of a sudden, really, you don't have to do anything other than say, Night Spear 90 and 30 to a bench. That's such a strong attack that really it nullifies, a lot of the mistakes people can make, and you can no longer kind of get away with, a cheesy victory here. They're like, trying to use whatever advantages you might have over your opponent, by say being able to outplay them in a sense, because now all of a sudden all you have to really do is say, here's my giant attack, deal with it. And these giant attacks are very hard to deal with. So, I think that definitely does play a big role in the way that this format has developed.
Yeah, I do agree with that. I started talking about this with some people a couple days ago. I feel like there's just an inherent flaw with the way the cards are designed right now, because in the past, you had like quick decks. Like think back to like maybe 2005, where you had like the turn 2 Zapdos or turn 2 like Muck, Metacham, whatever. Those were speedy, but if the big deck set up, the Nidoqueen, the Rocklock, whatever, if those things actually got set up, they would overpower you because you're just the quick, dinky little attackers, but your advantage is your speed. But nowadays, your quick attackers are also the big buff ones. So, for example, Darkrai, you can get him attacking turn 2, but he's just as powerful turn 8 as he is turn 2. Like, there's no real Pokemon that you can build up that matches up with Darkrai. I guess a good example would be like Empoleon. A quick Empoleon doesn't give you a better chance of beating Darkrai. Darkrai is still just good against you. So I feel like there's no reward for setting up these bigger Pokemon, because the smallest ones are probably more powerful than the ones that take setup. So what happens is the game just turns into this super aggressive, you trade attackers back and forth as quickly as possible, and it kind of takes away the whole part of, planning out your moves ahead, setting up for this big strategy, because the best strategy is just power up an attacker and go. There's no real thought to it. Now, that's no offense to people who have done well in this format. I'm not saying it takes no skill, but it's definitely simplified over the past couple of years.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good way to put it. Is the fact that there's still a very deep skill level that a skill ceiling, I guess, is one thing we can mention. But still, like at the same time, not only is there a big skill ceiling to reach to, but there's also kind of like a no gap between being a good player and being a very good player. So it's not a problem. It's just something that people have to learn to deal with and people have to get accustomed to. And we'll have to wait and see if this is going to be that way for a while. But yeah, that is one good thing to note about the format. Do you guys feel really quickly? Do you guys feel like the format's going to change drastically once this new set comes out? And if so, do you guys feel like some of the problems with the format might get fixed?
Maybe get worse. Not sure.
Why do you say that?
Have you read Landorus EX?
Yes, I have.
That card's ridiculous.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. The fact that it can set up a one-shot on pretty much any EX is pretty strong. But
30 for 1, and then 150 for 3? Are you kidding me? And then you have like cards like Ether? Are you kidding me? That card's ridiculous.
Yeah, I was going to mention the fact that there's no kind of real energy acceleration does play a role in the fact that Landorus EX might not be as broken as we claim it is. Obviously, we're going to have to wait and see. But then again, there is Ether. Do you feel like Ether is going to be a key role player in this and the evolution of this deck?
Well, I mean, your deck is 4 Landorus, so you have a lot of room to work with. Those pesky spots you wouldn't be playing with Pokemon. You just go, well, I can pull off a janky energy acceleration combo, and it'll work sometimes. But that sometimes is all I really need, because I attack for 1 energy most of the time.
And one other thing I do want to ask you, Pram, is we started with the Quad-Terrakion deck that was innovated last year. Then people went, well, try Quad-Terrakion EX, and then people went like, they keep saying this. Now we're at the point where people are saying Quad Landers. What is it about this Quad fighting Pokemon deck that really appeals to people? And why do we focus solely on these fighting Pokemon?
I think it's more of a case where like these fighting Pokemon have just ended up being really, really strong, and yeah, like Terrakion's really good. It kind of counters, like it countered all the big electric Pokemon back then, and then like now it kind of counters Darkrai, and it's kind of the same thing where the fighting Pokemon just happen to be very good. It could have been anything else really, but it's just it just happens to be fighting.
I think it's a combination of fighting in general has always been a pretty strong type. Like Pram said, it used to beat electric, now it beats Darkrai. And also their weaknesses are just obscure things. Like Terrakion's weak to grass. The only real grass attacker is Shaman EX, which just recently started getting played.
Virizion, my boy.
Yeah, I mean, let's be real. Terrakion loses to Virizion if anyone were to play it. But nobody does. So Terrakion was just kind of safe. Landorus EX, it's weak to water. So it would be safe if Keldeo didn't come out. Because there's no real water attackers. But that does come out. But I just wanted to speak to Ether. I think that is one of the stupidest cards we've ever seen printed, because it makes turn 1 wins possible again, and that's so dumb. I mean, you can turn 1 Power Blast with Tornadus EX with an Ether. That shouldn't exist. I hate that these cards are printed, and I think we're going to see a lot of bitter turn 1 losses because of that card, and I don't know why they keep printing them.
So what you're saying is I should be playing that with 4 Fast Pass.
That first ticket.
First ticket, man.
Whatevs.
You
know what I meant?
Yeah, I'm sure that deck's gonna pop up, dude. And that's not the direction that we as players want the game to head. We've always wanted it to stay, closer to the, hey, let's get some drawn out games going. Let us evolve our Pokemon if we really want to. Let us have a game. And for some reason, they keep pushing this whole, no, guys, let's try to make this game as fast as possible. I don't know if that has anything to do with the fact that the time limit, or that the games that are actually dragged out go to time and just become these really long, drawn out, epic games, and they want to minimize the amount of time spent. I really don't know, but I mean, it's definitely, it's gotten to the point where you just have to wonder why exactly they keep doing this when clearly the player base does not want that.
Yep, I don't get it, man.
Yes, I agree.
I was obsessing over the chat. I didn't really hear what you said. I was obsessing over the chat with Fast Pass.
Pram thinks he's at Disney World getting a Fast Pass to cut the lines.
I mean, it makes sense if you think about it like that. I cut the lines. I'm like, you don't even get to flip the coin. I'm just going first.
Yeah, I mean, the card itself is going to be very strong, or is very strong. The Landorus EX is going to be incredibly strong, I'm sure. We're going to have to wait and see exactly how these cards really pop up in the format and really what effect they're going to have. But my first vibe is kind of a negative one, and I really don't want to be the bearer of bad news or anything, but you guys are absolutely right. The format does kind of look a little bit shaky, and it just doesn't look fun, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
I don't know about that. I won't go that far, because like Landorus EX gets destroyed by Keldeo, like really, really bad. Like all Keldeo has to do is get 3 water energies on it, and then it just one-shots Landorus. So,
yep.
Like, it could end up being like one of those situations where Landorus is like the fast deck, and then Keldeo's the setup deck, and then Keldeo, like, if it ever gets up, just runs over Landorus. Like, it could end up being like that situation.
Yeah, but that's not the point I'm trying to make. I guess the point I was trying to make was the format doesn't seem fun in general. Not necessarily because these cards exist or because these cards are going to dominate. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that these cards just shouldn't exist. Cards like Kyle said, Ether. It doesn't make sense. So why would that card ever be printed? That the card is random. It's not a very. I mean, it is a good card, but I mean the effect is just. It's not an effect that you would want to play. You're gonna probably have to play it in some decks because the effect is so strong that you're just. I mean, you'd be silly not to. But you're gonna have so many games in which you're just like, well, this card sucks. This card didn't do anything for me, and I hate that type of card. I hate the random factor that Pokemon likes to bring into games. That if you guys remember, that's the thing that always made the Magic players back when we were kids, make fun of us as Pokemon players. They're like, you guys have so many coin flips in your guys' decks. You guys have, and it was like, well, yeah, I guess you're right. I mean, what can I say? I do have to flip for Thundershock. I do have to flip for Thunder Wave. And if Tails, I deal 10 to myself and and all of a sudden a 1+ power knocks me out. Yeah, I mean these things did happen, and we had no argument against that. We were like, well, yeah, I mean you're right. There's a lot of randomness in my game, and they're reintroducing that slowly, but it's gotten to the point where it's now kind of overwhelming. You have first ticket, fast pass, whatever you want to call it, man. You have that card.
It doesn't matter.
I don't know. Maybe they just had the same people winning every year, and then they were like, we got to change this up. I don't know.
Okay. I had one more really good point I really wanted to make, but I can no longer think of it for the life of me. So we might have to go on to a break and then answer viewer questions, unless you guys have something else you guys want to mention.
I just want to say thank you to Derek Farber and the staff there in Indiana for letting us stream the event. Basically just being accommodating in general. They let us set up a station. It was really hectic because we actually didn't know if we could stream or not. We just kind of showed up and set up with like 20 minutes before the tournament started. So it was a little hectic in that regard, but I just want to say thanks, and I hope that in the future we can provide more coverage like we did from regionals and all sorts of big tournaments, because I think that's important just to get people more involved, to get more excitement going, and the live commentary was a nice touch. So thanks to Drew for taking the time to do that for us.
Yeah. And with that, we're going to go on break, guys, and we'll be right back. Please keep asking the questions on our Facebook page, and we'll go ahead and answer them in a jiffy. Try to say jiffy.